We are starting a new series on functional programming in Java. In this first video, we are going to understand what exactly is functional programming. We are going to understand foundation of functional programming. So let's get started. First, we understand concept of noun and verb in terms of programming terminology. In real life, we know what is noun. Anything that we can see, we can touch, we can use is noun. As an example, say apple. And verb is any action, any process, any task we are performing. It is called as verb. So an example is a person is running. Now, what's use of this noun and verb? So any real world concept that we want to represent in software or in programming, we represent it using object, concept of object. And any real world concept related to say action, some process, some task, some algorithm, some logic, we represent it in form of method inside programming language. Before going into functional programming, we understand that Java is 100% object oriented. That is, Java's focus was on noun. Major focus was on noun. So everything is an object in Java. So object, like we represented it as a noun. As an example, if I create one object, say string object S, then that S is noun. Even if you create a method or action, so that action or method does not exist outside an object. If you want to define that method we have to write inside a class, and you can use that method only after creating objects. So Java is 100% object oriented. Its focus is on object. So once I have this message string object, for what purpose we use it? So we can pass that object around method. So we have this message, string message, or say any count variable of integer type. We can pass these values as an input to another function, or we can return them from some function. So we can represent it like this. We have this function which is performing some logic. As an input, we can pass object, value, or variable as an input, and that function is going to execute some logic. It's going to return some another object, another value, or another variable as output. As an analogy, if you go to a restaurant, we place our order. So we tell names of our food items. So essentially it is object or variables we are passing. Object or variables we are passing as value or as an input to that restaurant, and restaurant is going to execute some logic on that, and it's going to generate food items. Now we understand that is it possible to pass method around or pass function around? So in the same sense, we had string variable or say count variable. Can I have a variable whose value is some function? So we have a variable which holds some function as a value. And if we can do this, then can we pass that value or that variable as an input to some function? So can I do like this? We have a function which takes another function as an input, and that function is returning some function as output. So this is called passing function around. Analogy is that the same analogy of a restaurant, instead of providing just a name of the food items that we want, if we also provide our own recipe for food item, that you prepare this food item using this particular recipe, and then restaurant uses that recipe to prepare that food item. So here we have passed function, logic, or verb as an input to restaurant. So that is called as passing function around. So what is functional programming? Functional programming is a programming style using which we can pass a function as input to another function, or we can return a function from another function, or we can do both. So using functional programming, we can treat a function or action as a value, And that functional programming allows us to pass that value or behavior or action in the same way we were doing with the object. So that action or behavior which we are passing as an argument to a function, that is represented as a lambda in most of the programming languages. This form A arrow B is called as lambda. So lambda is a representation of functional programming. In our subsequent videos, we are going to understand these concepts in more details, and we'll connect this concept with Java programming language.